This is a history lesson from Newhouse Farm in South Gloucestershire, August 23. This is what it's like with ash dieback coming through England. Okay, so I do a lot of videos on the farm, just charting my day-to-day life and what I'm doing on that week and everything like that. And I realised I'm kind of building up a bit of a library of almost, I'd hate to say a historical library, but it is kind of like a record of a small Gloucestershire dairy farm in the early part of the 21st century, and it kind of probably have more importance maybe in 100 years time when maybe, oh look, the shadows on my camera, maybe, you know, when this is all changed and different and I'm not here, and who knows what the land will be used for. So today I'm kind of doing a record of something to me that's important on the farm, and this is something to an important moment in time, I think, to record, and that is the impact of ash dieback on this farm. Now, I've mentioned this before. We've got ash dieback. I did a video about it, or part of a video about it, when I was doing the silage cutting back in May. But this time I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to record a series of videos through the next coming years showing what the impact of ash dieback is on this farm, because I think we're marking a moment in time where a massive change is going to happen around the country, or it's happening already around the country, but certainly on this farm. So this is part one of a series, if you like, on ash dieback. I know not everyone's interested in this, and you know, if you want a tractor video, then this isn't for you. Here's a picture of a tractor anyway. There you go, so that's the only tractor bit on this video. Sorry about that, guys, but if you want to sit back and watch a kind of historical event unfold, then these series of videos I'm going to do in the next couple of years will tell you about that. So, but before we kind of go and talk about ash dieback, I'm going to talk about Dutch elm disease, because this was something that happened here in the 70s on this farm, and it is almost like a cycle repeating itself now with the ash dieback. So I'll talk to you about Dutch elm disease first of all. So this part of the country, Gloucestershire, covered in elm trees in the 70s, right up to the 70s. And Dutch elm disease came in. It's a fungal disease carried by a beetle that lives in the bark of elm trees. Came into this area in the 70s, and I can't remember fully grown elm trees. Honestly, I can't. I've never seen a fully grown elm tree, which is quite sad, really. But what I do remember is my dad cutting down the elm trees in the 1970s with a chainsaw. They were big trunks, massive trunks, and I can remember just vaguely the stumps being left in the hedgerows, because what they do is they cut down the tree and the stumps were just left in the hedgerow. So for quite a long time, and I can remember this probably up to the early 80s, seeing these sort of stumps about that high, that when my dad had cut the tree off and left the stump, and it would slowly rot down. So that's my memories of the large elm trees on the farm. And in the 1970s, late 70s, my dad was doing up the farmhouse, and he used some of the elm wood. I know we've got at least 2 doors made from elm, from the elm trees. And in that time, elm was really plentiful, you know, no one really thought about it, but actually now to get hold of wide elm planks is almost impossible and phenomenally expensive. It was a very common wood in this area, and people used it for everything. And the interesting thing is, right, in our bedroom in the farmhouse, the planks in the bedroom are all elm, and they're a bit ropey, they've got worm, they're probably 400 years old. I looked on eBay the other day about seeing if I could buy a plank to repair it, and they had 3 planks on eBay, big old elm planks, for £1,200. And the reason for that is you cannot get these big long planks now, because all those big old elms have gone. So I'm looking at my floor in the bedroom, there's probably £5 worth of planks on that floor. How crazy is that? Anyway, so there's an example behind me of Dutch elm disease, and I'm going to show you an elm tree bit before and after. This is a little coppice in the corner of a field. Now there is an elm tree there. That is as high as they get. Now I don't know how tall that is. It's probably 30 foot high, and you can see it. In fact, let's go and have a look. The elm tree, they're growing in the hedge here. Look, there's an elm. Let's get that down. Look at the, if you look at the leaves, they've got a slightly furry texture on there. Just believe it, it's quite rough. It's like someone, if you're going to kiss someone with stubble, that's probably like kissing someone with stubble. Can you hear that? It's rough. And that's quite a big leaf. They get smaller than that on the tips of the branches sometimes, but that's a and you can see this tree now growing up there. It looks quite healthy this side. Right, but we're going to go around that side, and you can just see the start of Dutch elm disease on it. And if I zoom up, can you see that the branches are curling, or the leaves are curling? It looks like someone scorched them with a flamethrower, doesn't it? Can you see that? The leaves are just dying back there, and that will lead to the tree ending up like a skeleton. And there's one behind it. Let's go along here, and you can see the death on here. Look, can you see that? There's one behind it dying. Look, and there's a dead one there. Look. Completely dead. Here's another dead one. It's a good example of here what's going on. Look, so there's a dead elm tree there, and there's a dying elm tree next to it. So that's a remnant of elm trees on the farm. So basically, so since the 70s, we've not been able to grow a fully grown elm tree on this farm. And occasionally there's some grow in the corners there and they're left, and the impact on wildlife is massive. I think I read something like 20 million elm trees went. Well, you can imagine the impact that had on nesting birds and stuff. Farmers get a lot of criticism for how they farm and how they've changed the environment with wildlife, but no one seems to recognise the loss of these trees from the 70s onwards made a massive impact. Anyway, so that's the elm trees there. We're going to have a quick look a minute. My dad in the 70s and the 80s really, started replanting trees on the top part of the farm where there was a lot of elm trees. So we're going to have a look at that, where we put in trees to try and replace or make up a little bit for the loss of the trees on the farm. Because my dad was like me, he absolutely loved the wildlife and the trees on the farm, and he wanted to put something back to replace them. So let's have a quick look at that before we go on and look at the ash trees. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the top part of the farm where most of the elms were. That entire hedge along there is just made up of elm. And there would have been elm trees all around the top of here. So this is where my father started the replant really. You can see up there, first thing he did really was put some sort of trees there. So we've got chestnut, there's a lime and some walnut. He loved walnuts there. And then we come back round here, look, this is a lime. Look at, it's got these little catkins on it. Look at them, they're quite interesting, unusual. I think they're seeds. I'm not sure what they are really. Should know that, shouldn't I really? But they're quite unusual. I've got my milking gloves still on. And then you can sort of pan round. What he's done, and I helped him with it, is lime tree there, oak, coming on down, it's a crab apple left from when I did some hedge laying. Another oak over there, another lime tree there, horse chestnut, lime, another oak here, lovely big oak there. So really he replaced the trees up on the top part of the farm where the elm trees went. And this is, I'll just turn this fence off. This is something I'm going to have to deal with, I think, at some point. Right, I'll just show you up here though that the ash dieback really, if we're talking at the top of the farm, the ash dieback isn't showing any symptoms. And this, I'll just pan around here, look. This is a lovely ash tree. Now I left that's my doing, that tree's there, and the same over there. This is from 20 years of hedge trimming, and I've trimmed along here, seen a couple of young ash tree shoots there, and I've left it to grow on up, and it's looking pretty healthy at the moment. Not much sign of any worry to worry about on there. We're going to go on down, and I'm going to go and look at the other ash trees, and we'll progressively look at the damage I think the ash dieback's causing. In the meantime though, look, this is what I mean about an elm hedge. Look, there it is there in the hedge, all the way along here. It seems to survive, the elm seems to survive really well when it's cut as a hedge, but as soon as it gets into a tree, that's where the trouble starts. So anyway, right, let's go back and look at the edge of the ash dieback, just starting in the lower part of the farm where the problem really is. Right, so that was the top bit of the farm there, and you can see there the ash trees up that section of the farm seem to be coping okay. There's no real sign of ash dieback up there. There aren't so many ash trees up there. There are some, but there's not a kind of huge amount. Like the more of the ash trees seem to be further down the field, more towards the lower part of the farm. And I'm going to spin it around now to show you one of these lovely old ash trees on the farm. So there we go. This is a really lovely example, and you can see there how it sort of sweeps up, goes up, and then it sort of hangs down a little bit. It's not a weeping ash, but it's a lovely one. And this is, so it's early in the morning, so the sun's a little bit in my eyes. This is a lovely old tree. I don't know how old it is. It's not massively old. Well, I say massively old. It's been here as long as I have, longer than me. And it's probably an example of a tree which I just think is starting to be under threat. So if you glance up at it, let me just have a look at these ash leaves, because it's a lovely, this is a tree. Do you know, I think this is the thing, right, about everything, isn't it? You can take stuff for granted. It's always been here, and you don't think about the ash tree and stuff. It's just here, isn't it? Yeah. And then one day when it's gone, or maybe going, you suddenly think, oh Christ, when that goes, I'm going to miss it. And this is the importance of the video for me. You might not be interested in this, but for me, this is an important record of what I'm seeing. So this is a great example of the ash tree. Look, there's these lovely little buds on the side of the branch. And then you've got these sort of sweeping down leaves. They always snap off quite easily, look. And you've got the leaf hanging down there like that. Usually like that. You know, and we don't think about it, do we? Just see an ash tree and not worry about it. So this is a lovely, majestic, big old ash tree, right? And I just think it's just starting to show signs of a problem. Look, and let's look up there, okay? Let's just zoom in up there. Can we see that branch there? Look, that isn't right, is it? There's something up there. And then you start looking around the canopy and you start thinking, hang on a minute, there's a few dead branches on the edge there, look. Look, just there. And there's sort of like that twig there, doesn't look right, does it? And then we're going to come on down. Look. And you start thinking, hang on a minute. Hang on a minute, why is that brown over there? What's going on there then? Look, those leaves just dying off. Look, what's going on there? Why is that going brown? So you sort of look at this tree first glance and you think it's okay, and then you think, well, hang on a minute, is it okay? And it's a lovely big tree. I mean, my camera work doesn't do this justice really. So this is a tree that's just, I think, showing early signs of ash dieback. Right, so that's a kind of that's like a marker, and we're going to look at that again in probably maybe next year or the year after and see what's happening. I'm going to go on down, because it's muddy here with all the rain we've had. I'm going to go on down, look at the lower fields, and I thought we'd go and look at the ash trees down there, because I know that they've definitely been significantly impacted by the ash dieback there. There's at least one dead tree, but there's sort of diseases progressing through the trees, and I thought I'd show you the progress of these of this disease on the field. I'm just walking through a som like mud. Look at this. This is a little track that the cattle have used, and it's got really bad. Yeah, I'm going to go and look at the rest of the trees on the farm, the lower ones where I think there's more of a problem. Talk about what's going on there, and then talk about what my solution to this will be, and maybe how I can help a few other people. Because I'm going to have I've got a little giveaway coming up for next year, where some trees will be hopefully going around the country. But as I said, I'm going to keep track of this disease on this farm now, and we're just going to monitor what's happening. Right, let's go and have a look at the other trees a minute. Right, so I've come down to our lower fields. This is where we keep the young stock. We might see them in a minute. This is where the impact of ash dieback's really starting to show up, and where I'm going to notice it the most, because this is where the most of the ash trees are. I'm going to go back and look over on the hedgerow where there's a lot of ash. I'm going to start with one that is sort of, I'd say, probably in the in-between stage of ash dieback, and then I'm going to go and have a look at some that have really been impacted. It's just going to change the landscape on this farm quite considerably. I mean, I'm just walking up to this ash here, look, and you can probably already see it doesn't look right. So this is quite another big ash tree, probably similar age to that one I saw earlier, the healthier looking one. I'd say this is probably a year in front of that one. Can you see how the canopy's thinned out considerably? A lot more dead branches at the top. Let me zoom out. You're going to stand still. So we're seeing a lot more death, if you like. Look at that. Look, can you see there the branches are going 50% gone, I'd say, on the top of there. So look at that. That tree, how long's that got? I don't know. It's sort of receding back to the trunk, really, isn't it? That was a lovely full mature tree last year. Just spotting around here, I can see an ash tree over there, and there's another one there, and then we're going to spin round here. Now this is where we're going to go back to where the majority of the ashes are, down one of the hedges. Look, there's another ash tree here, which doesn't look so bad. I think that one's not so bad, but let's get past that one. Well, we stop there a minute when we get there. So we've got a couple of ash trees here. It's quite interesting. I think there must have been a hedge here at one time. There's remains of a sort of ditch there. There must have been a dividing line, and the trees are from that hedge line. This one again, I think is showing signs of ash dieback. There's dead branches all over it. Look, you see there, dead twig there, and we're getting on the side here. You know, you've got live next to dead. Look at that, dead. But those two, that's a really old one there. It looks like it's been pollarded at some point, that one. A stumpy one, and then this big old one. Lovely big trunk going all the way up there, big canopy at the top, thinning out again, like I said before. So we're going to walk on down now. You saw where I drove down, that was a lane, and before my time, that was a lane that went all the way down from where I've parked the Land Rover there. It went on down the field, around the bottom, and linked in with another field right at the bottom. And it was, the idea was that someone could drive their cattle to a far field, because this was all segregated into different ownership. And my dad took out the hedge when we bought all the fields in the 60s. He took out that hedge, but he left some of the trees, and because it was a lane, I think the hedge got left to grow up, and these trees were in it. They were in the hedge line, and also where my dad took out the hedge, he left a couple of the trees. And then 30 years ago, I actually laid the hedge on one side, and I pollarded the ash trees. Now we're going to go and see these ash trees now, and they're looking rough. They are looking rough. Let's have a look. I was going to spin it round. So this is where there would have been a lane. So the lane carried all the way up there, joined up with the lane that I drove down, and it carried all the way down there, and it went curved around the bottom and joined up with what remains of a little lane here. And there's an ash tree left in the hedge line. Now this one looks quite healthy, I think. Again, the odd dead branch in it. But we spin round here. This one's looking very sick. This is a pollard I did a few years ago. That's died. Hanging on in there is a little bit in the middle. Hanging on in there. These are going to go on down. These are thinning out. They don't look quite right again. They're thinning out. And then we got again a more severe case of ash dieback. Look at this. I said 50% or more dead, more than 50%. Look, you've got a whole dead column there going up. All dead there, dead. Bushing out in the middle. It's like the tree's trying to kick back and try and push something out to make up for the loss. But I don't think it's going to make it. And then again, a canopy down there, a bit depleted on these pollarded ash trees there. But that one definitely doesn't look right. This one's very sorry for itself. And this one, I said next to it, another ash tree. Again, look at it. Can you see the dead twigs there? Okay. So you can see the knock on already. I mean, I didn't make a video before ash dieback of the healthy looking trees, because, you know, it was always one of those things of, is it really going to make it? Is it a storm in a teeter cup? And then you kind of look here now and you think, oh my God, it's really come. I'm just going to walk around a little area up here where there's quite a nice enclosed area. Then I'm going to finish with an ash tree that is definitely dead because of ash dieback. So we'll just continue our little walk around the farm, and I'll chat about what I can do, or can I do anything at the end. Right, this is a little bit of a green triangle where the end of the lane is, and there's a load of mature trees here. Again, big ash trees. I'm going to spin it round. It's a familiar story now. The canopy on this one is depleted. This one looking a lot sicker. It's actually died at the top. Can you see at the very top there? Look, its pinnacle is a dead branch, and the rest of the tree is definitely thinned out. Now this, to me, this you know what my feelings about trees on the farm is. My idea of a farm is a variety of landscapes with the trees and everything in abundance, really. So I kind of think without these trees, this farm changes its feel. I mean, I'm walking into this lovely kind of shady little triangle. This is a funny little triangle of grassland here. It's not good for mowing. You can't do anything with it. The cattle sort of use it as a bit of a corridor, but it's surrounded by trees, and it's a lovely little spot. If you're walking down here and you're coming to check the cattle, it's very relaxing because you've got the willow trees here, which I pollarded 20 years ago. Well, probably 15 years ago. I got a video somewhere of it. Pollarded these two. I've got these, then I've got these ashes you see around me. Big ash tree there and a big ash tree there, and it creates a kind of lovely, well, for me, a lovely atmosphere of tranquility. And do you know what? You can just sit here or stand here and feel relaxed. But you look at this, look, this one's going as well. Look at this, look. Look at that branch that was hanging. That's almost a weeping ash, actually, I'm not sure. Look. Can you see that? All dead nearly. And then we're going up, there's a bird's nest up there. Probably a buzzard, I would have thought. Big nest. You know. Now, we are seeing what my father saw 50 years ago. We are seeing the end, quite possibly, and I don't want to over exaggerate this, but I think it's probably true, the end of a species as we know it well, in Great Britain. You know, we saw the decline of the elm tree, and realistically, unless someone sorts that out and breeds a resistant variety, which they haven't done yet, because people have told me there's resistant varieties, but I've yet to see one commercially available for anyone to buy. We are going to see a change in this horizon. I'm seeing it now. Look at, I mean, you're just seeing daylight through the canopy of that tree. Normally that would be thick with green, and I'm seeing daylight through it. And I would say that within a year or two, that's going to be dead. And there's another ash there, and we're going on down there. There's ash, ash, ash. Ash, look, you can see that. Oh God, look at it. It's just so sad to see. I can just, you know, what I would see is a wall of green now. I'm seeing a wall of sticks. Look at that. A wall of sticks with a poor old tree trying to hold on in there. Look at that. That was a lovely green wall there. And when I laid that 30 years ago, I left that. I was really careful to follow those ash trees, to leave them for future generations, because I just love all the greenery on this farm. I do. So we're going to go and look at the tree at the top. But interesting thing is, I just saw that bird's nest. You know, you saw that pretty buzzard in that ash tree, and this is going to have a massive impact on the wildlife in this country. We're not really talking about it that much. It talked about it a lot when it first came around, but the impact on this now going forward is going to be huge. All these nesting sites are gone, all the spaces for creatures, you know, bugs and things to live are going to go. You're going to create a different environment altogether, and you know, that is a devastating thing for the UK. Right, I'm going to go on up. We're going to stop at the final tree that I think has probably completely had it, and then I'm just going to have a little chat about what my plan is in the future. Right, let's go. I've got to fix this door. It's doing my head in. Right, let's have a look at the first tree that I noticed on the farm that really died of ash dieback, and I'm pretty sure that's what the root cause of it was. I'm going to get around this side because the sun's in my eyes here. And we're just going to have a look. Here we go. So this is really, let's just get round. I can't, oh, I'm on the wrong side of the tree really, because the sun is getting the shade. The sun is the other side. It's a bit better. Right, so this is a mature ash, and you can see there, really, it was a really old ash tree. It was never in its first flush of youth, but you can see there, that is completely dead there. And going on up, look, lots of death there. And what we've got is really, a lot of that green is ivy actually going up the trunk. So it's a bit deceptive. It looks more green than it really is. That's a lot of ivy there, because ivy does seem to like the ash. But look, what you've got is the poor old tree is just trying to hold on. Look at it, it's just trying to hold on. A few bits and pieces of green, look. Up here, look at that, raggle-taggle, couple of branches with a bit of growth on it. And then what you've got is the rest is completely knackered. And look at that. What was 2 years ago a fully functioning big old ash tree is now reduced to a kind of skeleton shape, and that is the worst tree of ash dieback we've got on the farm, this one. The one next to it, you know, there's a couple more here. This one again is thinning a bit. That one there thinning. So you can see what's happening now on the farm as I've driven around and shown you. You you know, as I said earlier, this to me is a kind of a historical record for my benefit. I'm sharing it with you, but this is for me. I'm showing you what I'm now seeing in August 2023 on this farm, and probably August 1973 my dad was stood here watching the elm trees die. How about that? Almost 50 years, because I would have been about 5. I would have started, remember that was when my dad was about cutting them down. So it's almost 50 years to when Dutch elm disease came through this farm. I've got 50 years on, I've got ash dieback here. And I'm going to be in the same situation as my dad. At some point these trees are going to have to go. It's a bit overwhelming actually to think how much I've got to deal with on that front, because okay, I haven't got acres and acres of forest to deal with, but what the problem I've got is, the reality is these trees are all probably going to come down naturally. You know, once they die, the wind's going to take them. I'm going to have a lot of wood to deal with all at once, and you know what it's like, you don't really want all the wood at once. I've got a fire in the farmhouse, I burned some logs. What I want is the odd dead tree every so often. So suddenly I'll have flipping loads of firewood to use in 1 year, and then 10 years time there won't be any around. And that's the case with the elms really. You know, people planked up and sawed up elm trees in 1975, but where is it now? It's all gone. So on a practical note, I'm going to have to deal with a lot of dead wood in the next 5 years, I would say. And that leads me on to what I'm going to do about replanting. Now I think I will attempt to replant. I'm going to have to, I think what I'll do is I'm probably going to map the elm trees that I've got on, the ash trees I've got on this farm. Work out how many there are. Maybe there's 50, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it before. And then I will try and do a sort of replant with something in the future. There's no point in doing it now, in my opinion. While these trees are still here, I don't want to fell them unless I have to, because I think they provide some sort of habitat. But be realistic, you know, it's better that the trees have gone and leave me with the space that I know where to plant then. And there's a possibility that some of these might survive. I think it's a very narrow one, but some of these might survive, so that would be good. So I will replant at some point. So as I said before, this is part 1 of a series about ash dieback. Stick with me for next year. This is enough filming of ash dieback for now. I'm going to look again next year, this time next year, and see what the situation is and how far we've moved on. The other thing as well, I've mentioned it before in a video, next year will be 40 years of me farming, so I'm going to give away 40 trees to people around the country. 40 trees will be going out to some YouTube vloggers, some friends, and some people who watch me on this channel. I will spread out some love around the countryside with the trees that hopefully will replace trees that have gone in other parts of the country. So that's my project, but I'll give more details of that in January, how people can get one if they want to. And obviously I will replant here as well. But hey ho, it's not all doom and gloom. Look at this. The old elm tree keeps trying. Look, that's a sucker that's come up. It won't give up, elm. It's genetically identical, which is why they keep getting Dutch elm disease. But it doesn't give up. Nature doesn't give up. And I dare say, with the ash, it won't give up. There will be some resistance somewhere, and maybe not in my lifetime, I'm sure, but maybe in a few hundred years' time, there will be some more mature ash trees around the country that will be resistant to ash dieback. But at the moment, what I can see happening is that we're going to have a massive gap. We're going to have a gap of nothing. You know, once these old ones die, there won't be anything left to grow on. Or, well, there won't be anything mature for a long time. So there's going to be a change in the landscape coming, if it's not already come in your area already. Sad. Right. Try and pull some positive out of this bad situation. We are going to replant some trees at some point soon. Okay guys, and cracking on. This is a history lesson from Newhouse Farm in South Gloucestershire, August 23. This is what it's like with ash dieback coming through England.